Good evening, Taking Chances listeners and viewers. It is your host, Justin.
And Burnett.
And Q.
And we welcome you back for a brand new episode of the Taking Chances podcast, y'all. So, guys, this season we have been exploring, themes of wellness, themes of just healing and whatnot. But I feel like we haven't dived into just the actual act of healing. And I think for me, I would be remiss as a host and an advocate of personal wellness if we didn't really just talk about just what healing looks like in this, how should I say, really personal and external and emotional ghetto that we're experiencing right now in today's time frame, guys. I think right now we are in a really awkward period, as I would say. I mean, I feel like social media is starting to really showcase just how really awkward and ghetto and extreme the times we're living in. I think politics are reflecting it. I think we're seeing it as far as just in different work streams that we're seeing. And I mean, I know from our conversations, we're seeing it within the law, we're seeing it within education, Q, especially. We're also seeing it, just in different facets and whatnot. And I really think that despite all the shit that we have going on, it really is important to, you know what, actually, I'm not even gonna quote this thought. I will pull a quote from my good sis Beyonce, because Beyonce really came on time with this anthem. Sis said, you won't break my soul, and I'm just like, girl, yes, you won't break my damn soul, girl. So I want to dedicate this episode to just that notion of how to preserve oneself and just what healing looks like, and today, and just really talk about healing, how it pertains to oneself. I mean, I know healing for me is my personal thing, and I know in each one of our journeys healing looks different for everybody. So I really wanted to just bring to the table, just talk about what healing really looks like for each person, and kind of just talk about different ways in which we can really just present healing within ourselves and reinforce that within ourselves. So I would love to bring back a fan favorite, guys. He has been with us for the last 3 seasons now. I would like to bring in Mr. Poolside Pippin himself. You guys know him. You guys love him. He's come on board with us to bring back, those insightful, those thoughtful, those just thought-provoking thoughts, guys. I bring back Mr. Poolside Sipping himself. Kyle, come to the chat. Come to the chat, Kyle.
I am overwhelmed. What an introduction. What's going on?
Welcome back, Mr. Poolside.
Thank you for having me. It is great to be yet again taking chances on this podcast.
It's great to have you here.
First question for you, Mr. Poolside Sipping himself. Are you pulled to the side with a cocktail today?
All right. I'm driving responsibly, bro. I'm pulled over responsibly. I had one before, but we're just gonna keep it. I had a little pina colada. We're gonna raise the, that's the remnants of it. Don't worry about it.
Got it.
I got one for you, Mr. Poolside Sipping. The pool's on my side today.
What you sipping on? That's some Pinot. What you sipping on?
Child, we don't do white wine. We do champagne up in this bitch.
Excuse me. I heard it. Okay.
Kyle, how are you doing on this Friday?
Listen, it's been a long day. I'm not gonna lie. Work was, as good as work can get. But other than that, the rest of my evening, the weekend is looking up. I can't complain. I'm still here, still healing. As long as you're making steps, making progress. How you guys?
It's been a fucking challenge lately. I definitely think as we, well, at least in my case, I work with children these days, but at least just in my case, definitely gearing up for the environment that we're navigating with just the school system these days, how to really best support teachers and the shit that they're going to, how to support education professionals. And I definitely think that with everything that the world is going on, it's definitely been just a real fucking ghetto war zone these days. But I think in the midst of going through it, I definitely wanted to bring this subject to the table and really just kind of get what kind of protecting our peace looks like within our generation, because people love to sit there and say that our generation is kind of like the game changers. We're supposed to come and fix the world's problems, supposed to save the day, supposed to be fucking the come to Jesus for people. But like, when you think about all that we're charged to do in this lifetime, like, you have to really make sure that we're doing our own personal justice to protect our kind of peace. So like, the question that I wanted to present to the group is like, what different things do you do to kind of preserve your peace, and how does that pertain to the overall healing that you've been working on in general?
I found value in knowing when to take steps away from certain situations and like remove myself from certain scenarios. I feel like that's very important to maintaining your peace. There's certain things that a lot of people like to say that, bring something like take me out of character. In actuality, I don't like to say that, only because I feel like you can't create something from nothing. So you can't really be taken out of character. It's just a part of character that you don't exactly allow to represent yourself all the time. But it's in you, because if it wasn't in you, it wouldn't be able to come out. But there's certain things, again, like I said, you don't want yourself to be represented by certain things that maintain your peace. So by taking steps back from certain scenarios, you can avoid those situations that bring you into those things that do not agree with what you are trying to showcase. So I like to take steps back, and I spend a lot of time by myself. Like, so it's funny, I came across a post today that it said, some people have to stop only claiming the seasons that they're prospering, because even the bad seasons are your seasons, because those are what also aid in molding you and shaping you. So every season, good or bad, is your season. Where I'm currently at, like I am in the process of healing, because I've gone through some things where I've needed to like now find out who I am now, because what I went through, again, affected me, changed me. Could be for the better, for the worse. It depends on how I come out of this. We going for better, of course, always. But yeah, so it was one of those many seasons that I'm going through. It's all about deciding, after this season, who am I? What are my strengths now? What are my new powers? You know what I mean? And it's all about taking a step back and like really like digging into yourself and figuring those things out. And that can be anything from trying new things to digging back into old things that you like to do, and seeing if there's any newfound love or if there's any changes of heart, and just seeing if there is a new invention in you, or if it's just a stronger, better you. So a lot of times it's just taking back, like stepping back, reflecting, seeing who you are now. That's how I myself refind my peace, maintain my peace, all of the above.
The point you made about like even bad seasons are good seasons, I definitely think for me, so like personal of me, like I feel like I've been on a real 2-year journey of healing within myself. I kind of feel like a lot of the things that I felt like were who I was and what I wanted to do and what I wanted to be were things that are not present for myself for who I am today, maybe now 26 years ago. And it's weird, because I kind of feel like the last 26 years of my life were kind of like a separate point of who I am today in a way right now. And it's like, when you think about just like what healing looks for you, it's kind of like rationalizing like the things that you kind of feel uncomfortable about yourself, the things that you've went through, and also the things that you may or may not realize don't serve you. And I think that third part about, realizing the things that may or may not doesn't serve you, excuse my typo, but realizing the things that may or may not does not serve you anymore, that's actually the hardest part, because, you kind of have to rationalize with things that you at the time don't exactly realize why they don't serve you. I mean, I think a lot, like, I think in the 28 years that I lived, like 6 months ago in December was like the most pivotal month of my entire lived experience. Because like I actually had to literally ask myself, like, I don't know what the fuck you're doing. Like with like your life, with your mind, with your body, and with your spirit. And like you get to a point in, defining what peace looks like for you, where you don't necessarily have the answer to that. And I think for me, like, I had to really wrestle with the idea that, like, for my piece, like, there were going to be things that I didn't necessarily have the answer to. And I had to sort of reformat my bad season to this is a season for you to, like, look through what this bad season is trying to teach you and really format those things into the person that you are right now and what this period is trying to get you to be. So I think for me, like, definitely, like, my personal piece right now consists of, like, taking those bad seasons. Like, now for me, like, I have a philosophy where it's like I try not to complain. Like, I literally try not to complain about the shit that I'm going through. I may throw shade, I may talk shit and bullshit, but, like, I will, like, literally charge myself not to complain about shit that I'm going through, because I try to reframe my shit as a, you know what, Jay, you're going through this shit because this is a season for you to, like, go through it, take charge, and learn. But you're gonna come out on top of this in a much better place because you are being primed and built to get through a hurdle that you may not exactly realize what the fuck it is at this time. But as you navigate and go through the shit, you're gonna come out on the opposite side of it and say, you know what? I needed this to really have a real, I needed this to factor into the place of peace that I'm at right now. Like, my peace nowadays is really just taking the shit that I have to go through and my lived experience in order for me to get to and achieve my personal level of peace I'm trying to get to. Like, so I really resonated with what you said about, like, even the bad seasons are good seasons, because, like, that is so fucking true about healing. I think that really is healing itself. Like, you have to go through bad shit in order to heal. Healing is not it's not roses and dandelions. It's you go through some real dark, ugly shit to get to that good point.
Yeah, because let's face it, like, you only go into the hospital when you need healing, So it's when things are tough, that's what sends you to the doctor. That's what sends you into those closed doors on your knees praying, all them extra things. That's what sends you into the medicine cabinet. So yeah, absolutely. Another thing though that you said early on, you was like, you feel like your first 26 years is, like, separate from the year you are now, and that's also true. It's like every moment in your life is like a little memoir. It's like a little dot. Like, how when we were younger we used to do the connect the dots thing. So it's like everything that you're going through is a dot, and separately it might not really make sense. But when you start to connect them and start to draw, just make it work for each other. All things together work for your good. It starts to create a beautiful picture, and it starts to show what you've been manifesting these X amount of years you've been on this earth. So yeah.
I want to pass the baton to B&Q, because what I think is interesting about the two of you is, so, like, I know B 10 years strong, and I know you. I'm getting to know you. You're my bro, but I feel like through the two of you guys have a special bond when it comes to healing, because in relationships, they say, now correct me if I'm wrong because I don't know this lifestyle, but in relationships they say that there's a healing that comes from being with somebody that supports the healing process. Have you guys navigated this?
I would say for that, I wouldn't say it's not an easy thing, right? Because, and I think Burnett would touch on it, it's the fact of the matter that the person that you with holds the mirror, right? So they hold the mirror to the things that you actually do need to work on, right? Because you can sit there and say, oh, I don't need to work on that, or you don't know you need to work on those things. But the person that you're with will hold that mirror to you to say, hey, these are the things that you actually do need to work on. But also in that, the person that you're with also has to have the capacity to not walk you through it, because it is your own situation and it is your own, traumas and things, but to be able to be like, all right, cool, I understand this is what it is, and just hear you out, right? Because not everybody, when they express certain things, are heard. Just to hear, just to listen, and you may have some similarities, and then you can share your stories, and with sharing the story, then you are able to get some I wouldn't say heal. I would say get some like closure. You're closer. You're another step closer to where you need to be. Because it's not like you're in it by yourself. You share the story, and someone's there to be like, all right, cool, I support you. And they may, even suggest that you seek counseling, or they'll guide you in certain avenues. So I would say that would be this. They give you the steps. They don't just do it for you.
My take would be in terms of the whole like healing process and peace process while you're in a relationship would kind of be based on the fact that when you're with someone, or if you're in a healthy relationship, the fact that they're just present can really be more than anything that like it's really powerful, I'm trying to say, because there are some times where it's like you may be going through something, you might be hurting or whatever the case is, and people walk away. Like people say, you know what, I can't deal with this. It's too much for me, and they literally walk away, and that's almost like they're just shutting down what you're going through in that moment, and basically saying that it's not important, or that they don't have the capacity to deal with it. So I would say with us being in a relationship, we, like Quentin says all the time, being in a relationship is a choice. You make that decision every single day. So just by choosing to be here, be present, that has definitely helped us with respect to that part of healing, because it's not pretty, like to have to talk about your traumas, or to talk about these uncomfortable things, or to talk about something that you did that maybe offended someone or something like that. Like it's not a pretty process, and it's not something that is enjoyable. It's really not, but it definitely does help your growth, because you're doing something that, like Quentin said, is very different from maybe what you were doing. It's a mirror. It's literally a mirror that's being held to your face, showing you who you really are. Like you're really seeing yourself, and you might look at it and be like, you know what? I don't like this. Like this, what I'm doing is hurting the person that I love, or this is hurting people that I love that are around me. So obviously this behavior has to change, because it's not something that's going to be conducive to everyone. Like it's not conducive to the people that I love. So I have to change it. That's what I would say has been helpful in being in a relationship.
Or not to go back to your point, not even hurting the person you love, because it may not even affect the person that you love in that moment, because it already happened. It's a past trauma. But it can be something that if you don't address it, can affect, your kids down in the long run. Like it could be a long run trauma. It don't have to be something that will affect the person that you're with, but because you didn't deal with those things, it affects your children, because you're still trying to heal from those things. So yeah, I would definitely say, like she said, it's not easy. It's tough. So it's an everyday fight.
I don't want to paint a picture. I did some wellness research about our generation, because they say we're supposed to change the world. We're supposed to right the problems that our parents couldn't fix, and right the problems that came about during our generation, right? And I have a quote from Medium.com, and it says that millennials always get a bad rep for being entitled, self-centered, and shallow. They call us the avocado toast consuming selfie stick wielders. What could have caused an entire generation from different parts of the world with completely different life experiences, cultures, languages, and beliefs to surface similar characteristics of seemingly abnormal behaviors when compared to previous generations?
My first comment is, are we sure they're not talking about Gen Z?
I mean, some things could be attributed to them, but some things can.
I just don't agree with that comment. So
I mean, from my lived experience, I don't agree with it. I mean, I love avocado toast and all, but I don't think that our generation is like self-absorbed and shallow. I kind of think this whole Instagram, TikTok, we're gonna just do shit just to do it type of era came from Generation Z. But I do think that like when we think about just our generation, like millennials are truly interesting creatures when you think about it, right? We encompass so many different things, like the world, like I'm really starting to see how like the world really changed when we came into the effect, right? Like we came into the effect when somehow the world was kind of in a somewhat stable, right? Quotation mark, stable period. Within our generation, the expectation was that we were supposed to lead the charge as innovative and as cool and as different and as just children born in this stable period. We were supposed to lead the charge to change the fucking world. And as we grew up to kind of inherit the fucking world, we really fucking saw that like the story that we've been told, that classic story that you go to school, get straight A's, listen to your teacher, go to college, and when you get out of college, when you go to whatever college you get to, it could be an Ivy League, a historically black college, a community college, trade school. You're gonna get you a nice old job with a white picket fence. Why the fuck was that fence white? I don't know. That was a problem right there. But you get you a little white picket fence and a little brick house, as if houses built out of brick nowadays. A husband, mind you, I ain't gonna erase shit, but a husband and some children. You're gonna be all right, right? How many of us do we know have that lifestyle?
Not a lot.
It's a handful. It's a handful.
You mean like a little pinch ball?
It's a handful. It's a handful. Some people do still, have those goals and whatnot, but they gotta realize, right? We came in, as you said, a stable time. I would say, looking back, it was the most stablest of the generations. We came in, like you said, during a time where we were like moving into the internet age. So we came in. We went from where you had to go to like libraries to look for stuff, and then all of a sudden now we have it at like the palm of our hand. So we started like being more progressive. We started actually like researching and doing our own looking into stuff for ourselves. We didn't just take the word that the previous generations and adults was telling us. So when we started realizing that some of the stuff they said wasn't conducive to what we wanted, we was like, we're gonna change that. So we became, like you said, we did become those people that was like, we're gonna be the champions. We're gonna be the ones that, the changers, the movers and shakers and the changes of this world. So yeah, that's why they call us that we're more, self-centered, because we care more about ourselves than like our parents who work at the same job for 20 years and were miserable and hated and waited until they turned 65 to retire. Like, we not that. Like, prime example, even we had, me and Brunette had a conversation a while ago, and she was talking about changing jobs, and she was like, yeah, I'm gonna call my mom, and her mother was like, yeah, just stick it out. But then it's like, I'm out of here. Like, I'm leaving. I don't want to be here. Like, I'm not going to sit in this position where I'm going to be frustrated every day. I'm leaving. And I feel like that's where they be like, oh, we're more self-centered, because it's like, well, my mental health is at stake. And if I'm going to wake up every day and hate the place that I'm going, I don't want to be there, because that stress kills. So you have to be able to be like, nah, you have to weigh the pros and the cons. And a lot of people just, they go from job to job to find their niche and where they will fit. And a lot of people don't like that, because they feel like you should just find a job and work there until you're 65.
So if I can chime in, right? In terms of like the way things are now, and like why, like what Justin was saying, like we don't have a lot of what we were told would have us in a good place in life. It's because I feel like, me personally, we were raised to thrive in the time that we were raised in. Mm-hmm. The issue is, like, if I was a kid and an adult at the same time in the 90s, I would have been a rock star. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I was to go through life instantaneously, get my degree, all of that, I would have been a rock star. My degree back in the 90s would have had me, I would have been retired in a few years. But the problem is, we progressed. The world progressed. The time changed. And the thing is, like, we had to start taking matters into our own hands. We couldn't listen to those old guidelines, you know. So like, that's why some generations will feel that like, yo, it's all about us. But I'm like, at the end of the day, it had to be, because when it was the time for it to be about y'all and what y'all was saying is gone. And that's where we end up, in those middle grounds and not achieving those goals that we want, because we're stuck in the past. We got to change with the times. The times called for us to be different. You know what I'm saying? Not to say that I agree with what that quote was saying 100%, even though it was our generation that had the selfie stick. But, but like, again, like, the times called for us to react. And I think we did that, and a lot of us did it well, because we here at the end of the day.
So I have a very interesting question, and also a fact to pose for the group. So with everything that we just said right now, so I feel like a lot of the mental health issues and the depression issues that are facing our generation and just the world as a whole right now are because that people are really starting to see that the promise and story and the way that they've been told to kind of live their lives is not what they've been promised, or not what they've expected to do. And myself included, I've went through this to myself, you know, within my experience. But I think there's a lot of people that are really kind of navigating that, you know, just that disappointment, and also just that experience of, you know, really trying to figure out like who they are in the midst of a world where they kind of have to sort of figure out themselves, in a world where like they've lived this experience and it's not exactly what they've been promised. And I really wanted to kind of like talk about like how, one, you can kind of protect, how you can kind of work through that trauma, because it is a heavy trauma. It is a heavy trauma to kind of live through, kind of work through life, going to a certain grain that you've been kind of ingrained to, kind of educated, kind of been, you know, raised to kind of live by, and then to kind of get out into the world and kind of see that this really isn't the way the world kind of works. Like, how do you really just protect your peace when grappling with that reality? And also, like, what different ways can people just kind of just, you know, invest in the healing process? Because it really truly is, it's a healing process to kind of live your life to a certain method or experience, and then have to then go out into the human world and the adult world, and then to sort of redefine that to what works best for you. So like, I definitely think like, you know, we can't talk about like You Won't Break My Soul if we don't really address like what kinds of things that people have to navigate, you know, in this day and age that comes with breaking the soul.
So, if I can chime in, I think it has a lot to do with what you said. It was like, what really works best for you. So, some people find peace in having control over the situation. Other people find peace in just the adventure, the mystery, not knowing what comes next, but still like going in, like diving in face first or whatever. So the first thing, you just gotta really like know yourself and really figure out, all right, where's my peace? Like, do I need to know what happens next? You know, do I need to know where I'm headed? Or am I just along for the ride, and is that where my peace is? You know, a lot of people might not be, you know, agree with that method, but that's not for them to decide where your peace is. So, like for me, a lot of it, like for as long as I can remember, I never not had a plan. Obviously these past couple of years, you know, kind of like shook that up a little bit, but and it had me in a place where I was like, yo, for the first time in forever, I don't know what's next for me. Like, not to say I don't know what's next, but like, I knew what was next, I just didn't know how to get there. You know, because the plan that I had was derailed so bad out of things that were out of my control and like outside forces that you really couldn't foresee. And it was just like, all right, bounce back. All right, I got a plan to bounce back. Boom, pandemic. All right, bounce back. Okay, I got a plan to bounce back. Boom, like the raise didn't come through or whatever the case may be. all right, bounce, like, I can't, like, what's my next option to bounce back? I feel like, there's times where, like, you feel like you're stuck, but then you also find peace in realizing that, again, these are just dots that help form the bigger picture. Like, these are detours that will still ultimately get you to where you need to be. You know what I'm saying? So you just have to basically roll with the punches, and, like, delayed is not denied. Like, late but still arrived is a thing. You know what I mean? So it's like, you just have to understand that, like, even though you feel like you're not where you want to be, you might need to go back to the drawing board and remap your plan. If you feel like you're the person that needs to be in control and needs to know what's happening next, just take the time to do it. Just take the time to do it. I've seen so many posts where it was like, oh, such and such a person started this company at 55. This other person, like, there was this guy that, like, sold like $1 million painting. He was like 70. You know what I'm saying? And prior to that, he was homeless. You know what I'm saying? So, like, it's never too late. You know what I mean? It might not be where you want it to be, but you ain't write the script of this world. God did. So it's exactly where he wants you to be. So that's how I feel about it. But, and to converse that for the people that just throw caution to the wind, I mean, just keep going for the ride. I feel like you just gotta keep finding joy in whatever it is that you're doing. Because for me personally, even though I like control, my peace is in my joy. You know what I'm saying? Like, when Beyonce says you can't break my soul, you cannot steal my joy. That's for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, regardless of what I'm going through, the scripture verse that I repeat countless times to myself: weeping may endure in the night, but joy cometh in the morning. So as long as the sun rises, I'm good. You cannot steal my joy. You know what I mean? So that's
between that and basketball.
Basketball is absolutely my joy. You feel me? Listen, as long as I can shoot, man, I'm here. I pray to God. Listen, I'm not putting this in the air, but I just need my legs, and I'm good.
Burnett, I would be remiss if I did not ask you to shed some light about your journey. I feel like, to me at least, to me as your friend of 10 years, your friend of honor, because I am, as your friend of 10 years, like, your journey has definitely inspired me multiple times, and I think that your journey has had such periods of just growth and healing. And I definitely, like, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you to kind of just shed some light about your journey with healing and, like, what it means to you.
Yeah, I thank you, Justin. I appreciate your kind words, but healing is ugly. It is not pretty. Like, that's the thing. I think, like, this is why I sometimes don't like social media, because social media tends to make things that pretty that don't need to be. Like, there are things that are just meant to be ugly, and I think some people are really well gifted at being transparent in a way that just is authentic, because I'll be the first one to tell you, you ask me something about my life, I will keep it 100 stacks, like, keep it a whole bean. Like, it's no need for me to lie. And just from inception, just me being born, like, there's so many ups and downs that come with this journey. And I think that, I always thank my mother, because she tried to do the best that she could for me. And she did a good job. I turned out well, but honestly, it wasn't pretty. And she had to deal with a lot of, like, pushback from me, because growing up, I didn't understand a lot of things. I didn't understand why we were in scenarios that we were in, why certain things were the way they were. And she got a lot of pushback from me, a lot of fever. But that experience, this journey, is what allows me to relate to other people. I feel like a lot of people who know me, or I should say think they know me, they only know the pretty parts. And I'm really excited, because I'm working on something that's going to allow people to see some of the, the full picture. But more on that later. But for sure, like, I've always said that people have always seen, like, the pretty parts of my life. And I just think that it does a disservice to act like we don't all go through lows. We don't all go through bad times, rainy days. That's why I hate being around people who are really just not authentic. Like, I'd rather someone tell me, like, you know what, I'm going through a hard time right now. I can't come out with you. Can't hang out. Okay, cool. When you get better, we out. Like, you know what I'm saying? When you feel better, when you're up to it, we're out. Don't come out and then, you know, then your energy is off and your vibe is off. Like, don't do that. There's no need to be someone that you're not to please people, because I promise you, if you haven't learned it yet, those people are not there for you when you need them. 9 times out of 10, they're not. So I think for me, Justin, honestly, there's been a lot of things, I would say a lot of markers or points in my life that have been tough, but I always kind of peel back and think like, God, what are you trying to teach me through this? What am I supposed to get out of this moment? What is the lesson here? Because honestly, there has been periods when I know that it was tough, but I had to figure out how to navigate the toughness. Kind of like you were saying, Kyle, like, you know that it's not going well, but you're figuring out how to navigate it. Because I even went through what you went through with respect to not knowing what's next. And anybody that knew me, like from, I would say, before college or through college, I always knew what's next. Like, you asked me, I had a plan. I knew it was coming. I had it all planned out. But became a time, I would say, especially around 2020 with the pandemic, where things no longer, I didn't have a plan anymore. Like, things just weren't pacing out for me the way that I thought, and things weren't happening for me the way that I thought. So it's kind of like, what do I do? And that's a scary place to be in. But as you said, Kyle, God knows what he's doing. He's got our story written, and I just have to give credit to that. I always say, I might not know what the next chapter is, but I know who the author is. And with that, I can sleep at night. You know?
Amen.
So,
baby, let me tell you this. I'm not gonna spill the tea on what's to come for my friend, but let me tell you, when this next season drops and you get the tea, gonna see who the author really is. All right, but enough of that tea. One thing that I liked about this season, and I kind of want to tie it to this episode, is we invited your dad on an episode this season previously, and what I really liked about that episode was we kind of got to tie that episode to the growth points between you as the son of your father, and also your father being the parent to you. I definitely wanted to kind of touch bases and talk about like what different healings that we encounter from watching how our parents have gone about, you know, their lifestyles and their lives, and also like how we factor that into our own personal healings within ourselves.
With that, I want to preface it a certain way, right? And I don't want no one to take any type of I don't want no backlash on it. But our parents
free zone.
Our parents inflict all types of like they trauma. Inflict the trauma. Like they inflict so much trauma. But I feel like when you're younger, you see it, but you don't understand it, right? You just like, all right, cool.
Soak it up.
Yeah,
but you don't get it.
It's the fact that you're a sponge, so you just soak it up. You see all these things happening and unfolding, and you're just like, all right, I don't. You feel away because you don't understand. I feel like now that I'm older and I can have those conversations, you kind of get the background. It kind of like you get it's like you had the pieces but didn't understand what the puzzle was. And when you're older, you then can now put like the puzzle together to understand like, okay, I understand why you made those choices. I may not agree with them, or I may even still feel a way about them, but I understand why. Because you're old enough to be like, all right, cool. If that was me in that situation, I probably would have did the same thing. But you have to be able to have those uncomfortable conversations, but you need to have them in like when you're older, when you can understand more of the world. Because having it when you're young, if I would have had those conversations back then, I would have probably been like, all right, I still don't get it. Like, this makes no sense. Like, why would you make these moves or make these decisions that affect how you're viewed as a parent to a child, right? But when you're older, and then you have that relationship, it's way easier for you to get that understanding, and also be able
too.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, also be able to forgive them for those mistakes. And then it also helps you, decide that when you help heal your parent, when they tell you these things, it's also healing you. It's also healing you. So it's a two-way street, but it's a two-way street of healing, because they tell you how they feel and you tell them how you feel, and then you have you're able to move on and able to progress. And with that, you're like, all right, cool, I'm not gonna make the same mistakes you made, and now I can understand. Like, I understand it all. So I would say that would be the parallel between having the parent the parent-child relationship, and just having those realistic, like, real conversations, like 100, like you ask and they keep it 100. They're not sugarcoating, because I feel like also with parents, they don't want to I don't want the word, they don't want to disappoint you, right? Because as a child, I feel like the most damage you could do to your parent is like be disappointed. I feel like that is the worst thing. So they don't want to be like, they don't want to be seen in a negative light, because they're still your parents. But they know that when you're older, you can make your own decisions. So based off of the decisions they made, you can be like, well, I don't really want to mess with you no more. Like, you might have brought me in this world. Like, you might be my mother or my father, because that's biological. But you're not my, like, people want to say mommy or daddy. You don't get those. You just get mother and father, because that's what it is. So I'll say that.
Okay. Alright, so this is normally the point where I give my insight, but I'm gonna take off my moderator hat, and I'm gonna let my two co-hosts, take this one on, and I'm gonna put on my Dr. Daddy hat on, because I am in the school of therapy. I advocate for therapy. I stand by. I recommend it for everybody. But I'm gonna let my two co-hosts kind of pose a question to me in this case, because I'm a
So
therapist.
I got one.
She's ready. She's ready.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
So, one of the questions that I really would like to talk to you guys about is, how do you know when you're healed? Like, when do you know that for yourself, that you are healed? If you want, I can jump in with my answer.
Oh, that's a super.
I'll jump in. But for me, it's usually when I'm not fixated on the issue anymore. Like, I can wake up and it's no longer the first thing that is on my mind, or I can go through the day and not have to worry about that thought. Like, because there are times where it's like, nah, that's the only thing I'm thinking about, or I can't go through the day without thinking of something, or it's just paining me, like it's convicting me, that thought. But when I'm able to be free from it, or if someone mentions something that triggers it, it doesn't bother me. Like, I'm literally okay. And when I tell you I've come a long way, I mean, a lot of people really, maybe my mother would know, but I've come a long way, because there are certain things and there are certain people who cannot trigger me anymore. And the best feeling in life is when you don't have to give energy to a thing or someone, because they don't have power over you anymore. Because literally, when you have to give energy to someone or something, they have power over you. They have control over you. But when you don't have to worry about that no more, you good. You healed.
That's a fact. Yes, take a drink for me, Justin. But I absolutely love that answer. That was gonna be my answer, but I hesitated. But I love the way you ended it, because that was where I was going. The only reason I hesitated is because, like, I was gonna say, yeah, when you wake up, you're not fixated on whatever the trauma was and all of that. But there are moments when life kind of trick you into feeling that you're healed. Like, it's like a rolled ankle. Like, I rolled my ankle 2 weeks ago. True story. Last weekend, I was 100%. I went and played ball, cooking. Literally Sunday. Yeah, bro, relax. Ankle back. I'm like, all right, I'm back in the fan. It's like, what's going on? I thought I was good. So it could have been that I re-injured it, it could have been something traumatic, like the legit trauma from jumping and running around on concrete that re-injured it. I could have been healed and all of that, but it's like you said, like for me, it's like you won't know until you know. Like when that trigger rises and you don't react to it, that's when you know. You know what I'm saying? When it no longer, like you said, has power over you. And yeah, that's for me. Like when you're healed, when you just like you now control your life. Like you have the power over everything. Nobody else has power over you. No other thing has power over you. There's no idols in your life. But again, I don't exactly know what it looks like, but I'll know what it feels like when I come across that moment where whatever had me held no longer has the hold on me.
I feel like even to go with both of y'all, like you said, to know when you're healed, it's like Kyle said, you can think you're healed, but you're not. And I feel like the universe has a weird way of doing things, right? Because you'll be like, all right, cool, something will happen, and you'll be like, all right, you'll be held, it'll have a hold on you, and you'll be thinking about all this stuff. You'll think you're healed, and then you'll be put it back in the same situation in order to test you to be like, all right, cool, did you actually get this lesson or did you not? And you'll be put in that situation time and time again until you understand what you need to, learn and grasp, and then I feel like that's when you know you're healed. Like once you get whatever the lesson is that you're supposed to learn, and you're able to control your emotions and not be triggered by it, then you're healed. I feel like that is the key, because it's always going to be a situation where you're always going to be tested on that same thing.
If I could add something else, go
ahead, Kyle.
A lot of people like to equate their healing with the amount of time they spent healing, or not even healing, the amount of time they just spent existing after the trauma. Like some people just be like, I'm not gonna actively put in the work to heal. I'm gonna just give it time.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it's not.
It don't work that way. It don't work that way.
What is
exactly?
It's what faith without works is dead.
Faith without works is dead. You know what I'm saying? Listen, I know somewhere in the Bible, I might be rewording it wrong, but if you ask for the open hand, you shall receive. You feel me? Closed mouths don't get fed. You need to do something. You feel me? You pray for God, your prayer is already answered, but you have to work towards it. You know what I'm saying? Because if God felt that you were in a place where you were, like if he felt that your work was already done, you would have already had your prayer. Like you would have seen it answered before you asked for it. You know what I'm saying? You have to then work towards what you want. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't pray for wisdom and then not go to school, not open up a book or whatever the case may be. You know what I mean? So it's things like that. But yeah, like you can't just be like I have friends that would sit here and say, oh, I was in this situation, I was in this relationship, whatever, it was a bad relationship, but that was like 8 months ago, I'm good now. You know what I mean? That was like a year ago, I'm good now. How you, like, what'd you do to get you good? Like how'd you do it? I just took the time to do what? I would just, by myself. All right, what you did while you was by yourself? You sat in the dark? You let all of that spirit fester up in you? Or did you, like, release it? You know what I'm saying? Did you journal it? You know what I'm saying? Did you, like, find energies, or you just let it bottle up? You know what I mean? What did you do with that time? Like, it's not really time. It's the distance. It's how far you moved. Like, it's what you did with it, It's the light years, if anything, if that makes sense. It ain't seconds. It's like...
Justin, what do you think? How do you know when you're healed?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. I love the thoughts that have been presented to the table here, but like my thought process is gonna be a little bit spicy, and it's gonna be a little bit spicy because I think in my journey of healing and in my journey of therapy, I think I'm gonna call myself Dr. Daddy on this one because I'm fine as fuck and I'm also in therapy, so Dr. Daddy has some thoughts here, and I think Dr. Daddy's verdict and his prescription is that you never know when you're fully healed. You never know. And I think it defeats the process of healing to say that you are truly healed, because we have trauma that we've been through in the past. But like, when we think about it, like, we've been through things in the past and here we are present, but like, we don't know, because we are not the authors of where we're going to be in the future, right? We're not the authors of our future. We're the authors of where we are today and what we've done before, because we have control of that, but we don't know what comes next in our lifetime. So it's like, I say, for me at least, like, me personally, like, I know that I am healing. Would I say that I'm healed? I would say that I am more purposeful and just I'm more in control of like the choices that I made in the past and the behaviors that I made in the past. But like, I will never say that I'm healed, because like, there are certain things that I've yet to go through, that based on my lived experience that I've lived so far, that I may or may not have the experience and thoughts to be equipped to handle those things, in comparison to the thoughts and experiences that I've had thus far. Like, Burnett knows the majority of things that I've been through, but I've talked about some of those things on here. But like, there's certain things that I've gone through in my lifetime that I haven't exactly talked about, that like, to some people, like, you never come through, you never recover from those things. But like, I kind of feel like those sort of things, you can build a resilience and a tolerance for that type of pain. But like, those certain things always follow you, and it takes a lifetime and a consistent just tolerance and just, what's the word I want to use, routine of being able to reinforce what healing tries to teach you. Like, take a person, a victim of domestic violence, right? A person that's been in a domestic situation, they have to foster the behaviors within themselves to want to leave the situation. And when they leave a situation, if they don't continue to reinforce those same behaviors within themselves as they go through life, then it's only eventually going to come back to and repeat itself again. So like, when we think about it, like, I never want to sit there and say to myself that I'm healed. And I never want to say to myself that like, certain things won't bother me that have bothered me before, because you never know. And at least in my experience, like, you never know, like, when you'll encounter something, and it's just based off of the human biology and the psychology of humans. You never know when something could literally bring you back to a moment or a time or a place of where something that hurt you literally brought you back to. So what I always try to just reinforce within myself is that, yes, I'm healing, and yes, there are certain things that aren't going to affect me in the ways that would affect me before. But what I always try to reinforce within myself is that for those moments of where I fall short in the process of healing, and this is where I feel like most people fail and forget, is that in those moments where you fail to remember your healing, is to offer yourself kindness. Because we can be healed of certain situations, we can be better of certain situations, but at the same time, we're still human. Like, on Monday, I got a text message out of nowhere. And related to a certain situation that, like, I literally made mountains, moved entire fucking mountains. Like, ain't no mountain high enough Diana Ross mountains. But like, that message, just even getting that message brought me back to that place. And I felt that place, despite what all the things that I like healed from, grew from. I felt that place in that moment in time, and it brought me back to that. Now, it was up to me to reinforce the healing that I've done and the work that I've done to push myself back to the space that I was at. But even like, that moment showed me that even though I'm healing is a continual process, because trauma lives with you always. No matter how much you heal, no matter what you do, you still went through that situation. It's ingrained in your body, your DNA, and your soul. And that is where I feel like people struggle with the healing process, is they think that like, healing is finite. It's a continuous process, because you never know where you're going to revisit that point that triggered you or brought you down so low.
Yeah.
That is the word from Dr. Daddy.
Yeah. So pretty much it's like healing is not a destination, it's a journey.
Pretty much, like it's a continuous journey, and I think that people, the more people embrace healing as a journey versus healing as I need to go through healing to get to this point, I feel like people will find it easier to find peace within themselves. And this is just for me, and like I know for you guys as well, but like people will find it easier to find peace within themselves if they embrace the journey of healing. And eventually, and Burnett is like, she's probably tired of me saying this, but like, if people embrace being in the passenger seat, it all becomes easy.
I just want to add, like, I feel that when I think about it from a spiritual aspect, the biggest thing is that healing can be viewed as almost like a skill set that you're building. And once you recognize the grace that God has given to us, when you really understand that level of grace, you have to learn how to give it to yourself. Because I know we're talking about power and control and being triggered and all this stuff. Like, that's all, I feel like, clinical terms. But to break it down in the most simple way, we're honestly our own worst enemy. Because yes, we have dealt with trauma, and those are the result of things that we couldn't control that happened to us. But we do choose how we treat ourselves each day. You choose if you want to tell yourself, oh yeah, I'm not really worth that. I'm not worth anything because that happened to me. I'm terrible. I'm not a good person. Or all of those things that you're hearing in your mind is you. It's not the person next to you. 9 times out of 10, the people around you are telling you positive things. They're trying to uplift you, but it's you who are you're having the trouble with yourself processing, everything. And when we learn how to give ourselves the grace that God gives us, that helps us on, like you said, the journey of healing. But it's not easy. Again, like I said earlier on this episode, it's not easy. This is not something for people who they want stuff to look pretty. This is really gonna look ugly, and you gotta be ready to be down in the mud, like, because this ain't no cute stuff that we talking about. It's work. It's hard. It's sad. It's really not fun, and it requires really hard and uncomfortable conversations. And it requires you to look at yourself, like, put in that mirror to yourself. You might not like what you see. You think you look good, but you gonna see some things and it's gonna be like, I don't really like myself that much.
And I want to add to what she said. Now, even though I am in therapy my damn self, but I will fucking sit here and say, as a person that is in therapy, all therapy really is to orient yourself to think about yourself. So in reality, the simple layman's term for those that need me to break it down a little bit further is you have the fucking answers. All that therapy does, it orients you to find the answers that you already have for your fucking self.
Yeah. That's definitely a fact. And to go to Burnett's point, Burnett was talking about friends, stuff, Like, if you have friends that don't uplift you in those moments, they ain't your friends. That's the first thing. That's the first little nugget. And then the second one is the whole thing about, social media. Because social media is definitely just, people praise, they try to cram, like, their entire life in whatever, the 15-30 seconds, right? But it's all the good stuff in the 15 to 30 seconds. Like, they highlight all the good stuff. So you'll be in feeling down, and you look at Instagram and be like, wow, this person is accomplishing these goals, but they never show, like, how they got there, like the sleepless nights. They never show, like, they always show the end goal and not the steps to get to that goal. So I would definitely say, yeah, if you in it, stay off of social media, because that would definitely make you feel worse. Because I think even one person that said that happened to was Kevin Gates. He was feeling down, and he was about to commit suicide, and he was looking at Instagram. He's like, I was feeling down, I was looking at Instagram, and he was looking at DJ Envy's Instagram, and he was like, had all these cars and all this other stuff. And he's like, like, I don't feel appreciated. Like, I don't feel like I'm worthy enough to have these things. So I would definitely say, like, Instagram, and social media could be a definitely detriment when you feeling, down about yourself. So I would definitely say, definitely find those people that definitely uplift you if you feeling any type of way. And like I think Justin's on point, seek therapy. Like therapy's for everybody. So those are my 2 nuggets.
100%. Before I give the final closeout about the whole therapy piece and just the whole wellness piece, Kyle, you're used to this. We always pose a fun question to the group for all of our guests when we do episodes. So the question for the group that I have before I give the whole mental health PSA, because of course we have to, before I give the mental health PSA, I would like to ask a question to the group that what are 3 things that you each personally do to protect your mental peace? And I am going to pass the baton on to Kyle because he's our guest, and this is why we do this question. So take us away.
So the 3 things, well, like I mentioned before, to preserve my health, I maintain my peace, preserve my peace, I maintain my joy. So playing basketball is one of them. Another thing that I really like is to be around people with good energy. So like I do Taco Mondays. That is like one of the things that I look forward to every week because it's just like good people, good energy, and it's like I just love to see people around each other having a good time and also to be in that mix. Other than that,
that's 2.
That's 2. Other than that,
3 for 3. 3 for 3.
To be honest, my third, and I found this recently. So I started working out with a friend of mine and my brother, and it's been like an opportunity for me to have like kind of like a verbal journal. You know what I mean? And it's interesting, like, because I found that like we go through a lot of the same stuff, like me and the trainer and my brother and all of that. We go through a lot of the same stuff, and it's like we can relate. And as I've known these people for all my life, and I would have just never known. You know what I mean? But it's like that moment, like when I work out after work and all of that, those moments that I have, I find joy in them. It's like it's another piece that I didn't have before. I feel safe. You know what I'm saying? Again, it's steps. I'm making progress because I'm getting a potty day. You know what I mean? Watch out. Listen, you might have some competition, Dr. Daddy. I ain't gonna say it, but anyway, so yeah, it's like being able to just like have that round table, you know what I mean? And I also had that round table in a group chat that Quentin is also involved in. There's another group chat that Quentin is also involved in, and some other people. That we kind of have that support system for each other. So to be honest, I find that peace in, like you said, like having those real friends that can support you, that you can just unleash to, unload to, take off those burdens, when it's not God, you know what I'm saying? You want somebody that you can actually hear, like that actually feels tangible, you know what I mean? Not to say that you can hear God, but it's like, somebody, like it's like in real time you're getting something back. It's a good feeling. It's a releasing feeling, because prior to that, I'm gonna be honest with you, a lot of things used to just come with me right to bed. Like I just go through whatever, process it, go to sleep. I ain't never really get to release it, like say anything. And it's just like, even though you might not feel like you're actively doing something, just actually get it off your chest does so much, and it released so much. And as much as I've already smiled before then, it made my smile bigger. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, those are 3 things that I would say that I currently do. Those are my current controls for my peace, I would say.
All right. I'm hitting the alt button on you, Kyle, and I'm passing it on to you, Quentin. Give us your 3.
My 3, the first one, and I would say I get this from my dad a lot, music. Listen, you have to. If you don't have music, you dead. Music can definitely change. Is the only universal language, the only one. Like you can listen to music, and it makes you feel a certain way. Like you can listen to music and it can make you happy. It can make you mad. It can make you want to fight. Like music is just like the underlining of us as like humans, because even your heart has a beat. Like that is the beginning. Like your heart has a beat. So everything comes with music. So I would say music is one of my just listening to music is one of my things to keep my peace. The second one is definitely my creative mind, and just being creative, just being a creative and being able to create is the second thing, because I feel like as a creative, you get lost in that world, right? You can sit there and create something and you're like, I want to share this with the world, and then when the world like digests what you created, and they just come up to you and say, "Oh my God, like that was amazing," and you might even not even see it how they see it, but it's just the fact that you created it and you were able to just share it. I mean, I feel everybody on this this episode has seen something that I've created at one point in time, and each of you have definitely I want to say blown away, but you have given me like a reason to continue to create, a reason to continue to do what I do, whether that be the ice cream, whether that be my production side, whether that be music, whether that be just putting like an award show together. Y'all have seen my creative in so many aspects, and a lot of people don't really understand the things that I touch and what I do, and I just want like just to showcase those things is definitely my second one. My third one is kind of hard because I feel like the first two take up all of my time. But the third one would definitely be just being able to sit in my peace, just to be able to sit and be quiet sometimes. Like sometimes I just come home and I just sit on the couch. Granted, I might be watching, TV might be on, but I'm just in my own zen. Like I'm in my own world. Like I feel like just being quiet is one of the best things, because you get to just think sometimes, even though you may not want to be alone with your thoughts all the time. But just being able to, flesh out some ideas and just being able to be like, all right, cool. Even being in that moment of silence, being, connecting with God, like just to have that moment. And so I feel like those are my top three. And then my bonus one, like I'm in a group chat with Kyle and them, Justin. Like I talk to like all of the male friends that I have. So I'm able to just bounce ideas, or we have conversations, just to have male friends that are, they may not be like-minded, but just the fact to have you guys around, just to be able to be like, hey, cool, like what do you think about this, or how do you feel about this, just to have those types of talks. So definitely that's my bonus. So those are my top three and my one.
BR Esquire, I am turning it over to you.
So for me, I would say number one is learning to say no, and just recognizing that not everything serves me, and not feeling like I have to be a part of everything, because I realize that I'm the prize. Like I don't get mad anymore when someone's like, oh, like I don't want to be with you, I don't want to do this. I don't give a fuck. Like at the end of the day, if you don't want that, like you're dumb. Because at the end of the day, I'm gonna win when you're gone. When you're like, it doesn't matter. Anybody that's been in my life, I've been winning. I might take some L's, but I win every single time. The bounce back is crazy because I'm favored. I'm blessed and highly. God don't play with me.
Favor ain't here.
I don't normally be talking crazy, but I'm gonna talk because it's just like that's how I keep my peace. That's how I keep my peace, by recognizing that not everything is for me. That's okay. And that goes into my second thing, knowing where I am appreciated. I've started to realize as I've gotten older, the people who really value me. I didn't always have that level of discernment growing up. I used to think I was everybody's friend because I was their friend. But then I started realizing, nah, I'm treating you better than how you treat me. That's a problem. Like it's not reciprocal. Like that's a problem. So I think knowing where I am appreciated definitely is critical in keeping peace, because I don't now have expectations that don't match, or thoughts that don't match with the people who I'm dealing with. Lastly, minding my business. Okay, I might peep stuff, But I don't mean I'm going to say something in that moment when I peep it. I'm going to wait until it's absolutely necessary for me to say something, because I'm going to see how you decide to move and if you're going to say anything. And I'm taking all of that into consideration with people. So it's like, whether it's whoever, employment, whatever, like I'm a peep and I ain't going to say nothing, because I'm waiting to see what you're going to say. And if you don't say anything, I'm taking all of that into consideration when I say what I have to say. So, learning to say no, knowing where I'm appreciated, and minding my business. Those are the 3 things for me.
I would definitely say Burnett's number 2 is definitely Uncle Clifford's rule. I don't want to get it wrong, but the rule, what is it? 50. Don't quote me, but it's a rule. It's don't be everyone's cup of tea, because then
yes.
That rule, it'll be there. It'll be somewhere on the screen, but that rule.
It's the teacup for me, so I gotta. You brought my good sis Uncle Cliff in the conversation. So I gotta do him proud, baby. All right, what is Justin Dr. Daddy rule? Let me see. Dr. Daddy rule number fucking 1 is my peace is my own fucking priority. Let me tell y'all something right now. The easiest and the first lesson you will learn this fucking lifetime is that your peace is fucking priceless. I don't care what the fuck you fucking buy in this lifetime. I don't care what the fucking house you buy. I don't care how much money is in your bank account. Ain't no motherfucker gonna ever fucking afford your fucking peace. So the moment you prioritize your fucking peace is the moment you'll be at peace.
That part.
Alright? That's rule number 1. Number 1. Dr. Daddy rule number 2 is something that I've truly learned in my latest years of life is I don't give a fuck. Learn I don't give a fuck. And it's just like, I honestly, like, when you separate, like, I have this philosophy when it comes to when it comes to healing, right? You have to heal your own shit. Your own personal shit that's a trauma, that's a problem, that's an issue, that's a factor in you not being your best self, right? When you put that shit in the front view and you put all the other shit that's outside of that in the rear view, you really get down to the concrete factor. And 9 times out of 10, the shit that you go through with people, get close to the camera, that's their shit. It's not your shit.
Don DeMarco.
You know the shit that you have to factor in, to work through, to address, and to handle. So when you learn to not give a fuck about the shit that pertains to you and the shit that reinforces you being you and protects you being you, i.e. the career you want to have, the circle that's around you that enforces the positive aspects of yourself, and also when you are falling outside of yourself, the circle that pulls you back in to tell you, listen dude or bro, you out, you getting beside yourselves. When you have that around you, you learn to realize that why do you give a fuck about shit that doesn't reinforce that? So rule number 2 is you gotta stop giving a fuck about shit that don't fucking serve you. Alright? Heard that one? And then, like, my rule number 3 is you have to be kind to yourself. I think, rule number 1 and 2, it's really hard because, like, to most people, it kind of seems like you're being cutthroat and hard, like you don't give a fuck. When you really think about, like, what rule number 1 and 2 that I said kind of means to yourself, you kind of have to be kind to yourself and realize that, like, it's not a bad thing to prioritize yourself. It's not a bad thing to take care of yourself, and it's not a bad thing to just reinforce that you are your own priority and to take care of yourself. So, like, with that notion, I'll proceed to this episode's mental health PSA, and I'll say that, like, for all our listeners that are struggling with just things that they might be going through or navigating, like, I personally want to say that, like, you're fine. You might feel like you're not fucking fine, but you're fine. The things that you're going through are things that people are going through all across the world. We're living in a really fucking shitty ass time where shit doesn't make any fucking sense. There's people making decisions that don't know what the fuck that they're doing. And there's people fucking just, we're in a really fucking shitty time. What I want to say to you is that, like, definitely, like, lean into the circle of people that you do have around you. And even if you don't have that circle around you, there's plenty of resources, hotlines, agencies, therapists, doctors that can help you get the help that you need. But just like, if there's anything that I and our co-host and our guests when you take from this episode, is that, like, you're not alone in the journey. Healing looks different for every fucking person, but just know that healing is possible. Healing is possible. And if there's anything that, like, we want you to take away from this episode, is that explore healing in the best ways that it serves you, and do it on your terms, on your times, but just know that healing is fucking possible. Pause for effect on that. Dropped a lot of gems in this episode for you guys. I wanted to end on an appropriate note, because this episode has been about wellness, mental healing. And you know, whenever you fucking feel yourself try, you just always have to fucking remember